Welcome back to another episode of CGC. Today we have the long-awaited episode, finally, the Veloster N review. But to understand the full story, first we must go back. Hyundai first put out the Veloster in 2011, and in 2012 they put out the turbo version. Something truly unique about these cars is that they have an asymmetrical configuration. Basically one large door on the left and two doors on the right, like something you would see out of a minivan. Fast forward to the year 2018, Hyundai releases its second generation of the Veloster, however, still keeping that same asymmetrical door layout. In 2019, Hyundai released a high-performance version of the Veloster called the Veloster N. It had 275 horsepower and did 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds, and first released only with a manual. The Veloster N was Hyundai's first vehicle out of its new performance N division, and this vehicle has some ties to BMW, as the old chief of BMW's M division, Albert Biermann, also led the efforts in developing the Veloster N. But everyone wants to know, did Hyundai do it? Were they able to make a capable hot hatch, especially one that can challenge the likes of the Volkswagen GTI? Stay tuned and we're going to find out. Welcome back to another episode of CGC, and today we're going over the exterior of the Veloster N. The Veloster N flagshipped in this color, which they call Performance Blue, and honestly, I don't know why you want to get it in any other color. Hyundai's design for this car is aggressive yet somewhat refined, just like its asymmetrical door configuration. More on that later. The appropriately sized rear wing, the red accents on the diffuser, side skirts, the front bumper, and the red end calipers clearly distinguish this Veloster as an N model. The air channels in the front bumper are actually functional and help cool the brakes, and it follows this line all the way down the car to the back brakes as well. The LED standard lights on the Veloster N are pretty cool and very bright, and particularly the backlight, as you have one triangular shaped one actually in the spoiler. One thing that I dislike about the exterior is that I hate that automakers always put these fake plastic vents. What is the point of this, guys? What are we doing? But now we have to address the elephant in the room, which is the asymmetrical door configuration in the Veloster N. Some people absolutely hate it and wish that Hyundai had fully embraced the coupe design and therefore saved weight by not putting a third door on the other side. Other people hate that this door is so large. Basically, when you're trying to get out in small spaces, the door is so big and it needs room to swing open, so it's hard to get out. I can confirm. However, what we do know for sure is what Hyundai's vision was for this car. So again, going back, it was supposed to be something that was fun, sporty, and aggressive, but also functional. Therefore, you have one big door for sporty and a curved sloped roofline, and you also have two doors on the other side for functionality. What is actually quite crazy, if you look at the pillars in the Veloster N, the B pillar, in order to accommodate this larger driver door, is actually moved further back than the B pillar on the other side of the car. Stay tuned for the next segment of the Veloster N review. We're going to be going over the interior. Welcome back to another episode of CGC, and today we have the interior of the Veloster N. This is probably my least favorite part of the vehicle. Upon entering the Veloster N, you're met with a sea of cheap black material. Dead buttons that you would only find on lesser model cars, and the absence of seat heaters. I know, I understand. I'm a purist at heart too. It's one of the reasons why I own the Veloster N. I thought I don't need leather seats, heat seaters, heated steering wheels, or any of those amenities. That's what makes a purist, right? Purists are mostly focused on the driving enjoyment and the way that the car makes you feel. However, after looking at a 2022 Elantra N, you can only help but wonder, Hyundai, how did y'all put so minimal effort into this interior? However, there are some bright spots. Seating position is pretty good. I'm a 6-foot male. It's a little tall for my taste, but not too bad. The seats themselves are comfortable and supportive. You never get too tired doing a long drive. And we have nice little blue accents around the car. Some stitching in the seats and also in the seat belts, but warning, those do tend to get dirty. Infotainment system is snappy and responsive. Thank you, Hyundai. And we actually have dedicated HVAC controls. Time and time again, as consumers, we keep telling automakers, stop putting dedicated controls for other functions in your infotainment systems. Once your infotainment system has a glitch or a bug, which they all do, I cannot adjust my heat or cooling temperature. Why do I want to be driving down the road, my infotainment goes down, and I'm ablaze within the cockpit? The shifter is nice and short in nature. You have 3 nice alloy pedals, 3 pedals, of course. The dash itself is bright and modern, and it's an N-specific dash, and you even have dedicated shift lights. Due to the vehicle being a 3-door car and the driver's side door being much larger than the other doors on the passenger side, this B-pillar is moved back. So you actually have a seat belt holder that helps feed you your seat belt. And on top of that, unfortunately, this does create a very small blind spot when trying to see behind the driver's side. We have this N-specific steering wheel. It is very, very meaty, very, very meaty. You also have blue stitching on the inside of the steering wheel and 2 glorious, very satisfying performance buttons on either side of the steering wheel. Thank you very much again, BMW M Divison. You access the back seats in the Veloster N through an integrated door handle in the Veloster's famous 3rd door. I am not gonna lie, it's pretty cramped back here. Again, I'm a 6-foot male and I barely fit. But of course, the Veloster N being only a 4-seater, you can get women and children in the back. Emphasis on women. Finally, we have the trunk, and you access it through a button that is actually hidden underneath the back rear wiper. Surprisingly, the trunk is very functional, even though the Veloster N does have a sloped roof line, unlike a Volkswagen GTI. However, the opening for the trunk is very low, so it's easy for you to actually get items inside the vehicle. And of course, the seats fold down and it allows you to move even more stuff. Next up, we have the performance section, which is going to highlight the specs and the hardware of the Veloster N. Welcome back to another episode of CGC. We are finally here at my favorite portion, the performance section. We'll start today with specs and hardware, and the next episode we'll move on to driving dynamics. We begin with the power plant. Hyundai designed the Veloster N to be a track-capable car, so moving the Veloster's 3,077 pounds is the Theta 2i, a 4-banger pumping out 275 horsepower and a respectable 260 foot-pounds of torque way down low at 1,450 RPM. Hyundai wanted the Veloster N's motor to be as responsive as possible, so they bolted a twin-scroll turbo to the Theta 2i motor. Twin-scroll, as opposed to a single-scroll turbo, has greater efficiency and spools even quicker. Veloster N also has an oil cooler, if you can believe it, a polymer heat-soak resistant intake manifold that has a valve control module that actually optimizes airflow in the intake manifold at low speed driving and high speed driving. And finally, it has sodium filled valves on the exhaust side to help shed off that heat. Furthermore, the Veloster N gets hydraulically controlled variable valve timing on the exhaust cam. On the intake cam, it actually gets next generation electronically controlled variable valve timing.
Wow.
Due to the fact that the system can operate at a wider range and has a quicker response than the older style hydraulically controlled variable valve timing. As you can tell, Hyundai tried to make all the necessary steps to make sure that the Veloster N could handle all the heat of a track day. Moving on to other elements of the Veloster N, Hyundai made some significant improvements over this model from the Veloster Turbo models. The Veloster N is actually lower and wider than the turbo models. I do love a big booty. Also features a close ratio 6-speed manual with rev matching. I absolutely love rev matching. The synchro rings are actually reinforced within the transmission, and the clutch itself is also reinforced as it can hold an extra amount of torque. The Veloster N is also stiffer than the Veloster Turbo in lower models, as it has reinforced welds along the body shell and also reinforced body braces. All the Veloster N's launched with variable valve exhaust. Basically, you have an electronically controlled valve within the exhaust that directs exhaust gases through one tailpipe or through both tailpipes in another section of the muffler, making it louder or more quiet. All of the Veloster N models even launched with electronically controlled dampers. These dampers were tuned by Hyundai themselves, and it's based on a load transfer system. Basically, when you brake, it tries to reduce dive. When you launch, it tries to reduce compression on the rear axle. And when you're going through the twisties or the corners, it attempts to reduce body roll. Back in 2019, the Veloster N launched in a base package or a performance package. The performance pack got you an ECU power bump from 250 horsepower to 275 horsepower, a very, very good electronically controlled limited slip differential for the front axle, larger 13.6-inch vented rotors for the front brakes, larger 12.4-inch vented rotors for the back brakes, and it also got you larger wheels and exclusive Pirelli P0 summer tires. Now, Hyundai did want this vehicle to be a capable track car, but obviously it's Hyundai. They also wanted it to be affordable. Instead of going out and sourcing a very expensive set of Brembo brakes, what they did is that they went with a 2-pot setup at the front, 1-pot setup at the back from an actual South Korean Sonata spec car. All in all these systems are controlled by 5 different drive modes. More on that later in the next episode when we handle driving dynamics. All in all, the hardware and software that Hyundai put in the Veloster N has it soundly beating the Mark 7 and Mark 8 Golf GTI in terms of specs. I'm sorry, boys and girls, I know you hate to hear it, but I'm gonna keep telling you over and over again. However, it falls short of the king of hot hatches, of course, the Honda Civic Type R, in terms of specs. Stay tuned for the next episode of CGC, where finally we're getting behind the wheel.